In the small, dusty village of Mombolo, where the sun blazed relentlessly and the earth cracked from thirst, lived a young boy named Jabari. His family was poor. His mother sold firewood in the market, and his father had left years ago, seeking work in the city and never returning. But Jabari had a fire in his heart that no hardship could extinguish. "I will be a great man one day," he would whisper to himself as he walked the long miles to school, his stomach growling from hunger. "I will build a house with a roof that doesn't leak. I will send my mother to the city to see a doctor. I will make her name respected." The other children laughed at his dreams. Great! You don't even have shoes," they taunted. But Jabari ignored them, burying himself in books, believing that education was his path to greatness. Then, disaster struck. His mother fell ill, a fever that wouldn't break. The little money they had was spent on medicine, and soon, Jabari had to stop going to school to work odd jobs. He carried loads at the market, swept shops, and even begged sometimes. Though it shamed him, months passed, and the dream that once burned so brightly in his heart began to flicker. "Maybe greatness isn't for people like me," he thought one evening, staring at his calloused hands. But fate had not finished with him yet. One day, an old man, a traveling storyteller, visited the village. He saw Jabari sitting alone, his face shadowed with defeat, and sat beside him. "Why do you look so heavy, boy?" the old man asked. Jabari hesitated, then spilled his sorrows, his dreams, his struggles, his fading hope. The old man listened, then smiled. "Do you know how the baobab tree grows?" he asked. "It starts as a tiny seed, buried in the hardest earth. For years, it pushes against the soil, against the drought, against the wind. Many die before they even break the surface, but the ones that survive, they become unshakable." Jabari frowned. "What does that mean for me?" The old man stood, patting his shoulder. "It means your struggle is not the end. It is the soil in which your greatness grows." Something stirred in Jabari's chest. The next morning, he woke before dawn, gathered his few books, and began studying again under the light of a kerosene lamp. After work, in stolen moments. Years later, a man stood at the opening of a new school in Mombolo, one with sturdy walls and a library. The villagers cheered as Dr. Jabari Kamara, the boy who refused to let hardship bury him, cut the ribbon. And as he looked at the children, their eyes bright, with dreams he knew. Greatness was not about where you started. It was about how hard you fought to rise. Years passed, and the school Jabari built became a beacon of hope in Mombolo. Children who once had no future now sat in classrooms, their minds alight with possibilities. Jabari, now a respected educator and community leader, had fulfilled his childhood promise. He had become a great man. But life, he had learned, was never a straight path. One evening, as he reviewed plans for a new medical clinic, a messenger arrived with urgent news. The government had announced a highway expansion, one that would cut straight through Mombolo, demolishing homes, farms, and even his beloved school. The compensation offered was meager, barely enough to rebuild. The villagers panicked, their hard-won progress now under threat. Jabari's hands trembled as he read the notice. After all this struggle, will we lose everything again? That night, he stood outside the school, staring at the building that had once been just a dream. He remembered the old storyteller's words. "Your struggle is the soil in which your greatness grows." He clenched his fists. No, not this time. The next morning, Jabari rallied the villagers. "We will not let them take our future without a fight," he declared. "But we will fight with wisdom, not anger." He organized petitions, reached out to journalists, and even traveled to the capital to meet with officials. Many dismissed him. "A poor village like yours? The decision is final," one bureaucrat scoffed. But Jabari refused to back down. He used his reputation, his story of rising from poverty, to draw attention. News outlets picked up the struggle of Mombolo. Activists, lawyers, and even a famous musician joined the cause. Protests erupted, not with violence, but with songs, speeches, and the unwavering presence of children, holding signs that read, "Don't steal our future." Weeks turned into months. The government, facing growing pressure, finally agreed to negotiate. Jabari stood before a panel of ministers, his voice steady. "You say this highway is progress," he said. "But what is progress if it destroys the dreams of the next generation? Reroute the road. Give us a chance." Silence filled the room. Then, to everyone's shock, the minister in charge, a man who had once grown up in a village like Mombolo, nodded. "We will revise the plans." Not only did the government spare the school, but they also invested in Mombolo proper roads, a health center, and even scholarships for its students. Jabari's defiance had turned disaster into opportunity. That evening, as the village celebrated, the old storyteller appeared again, his eyes twinkling. "You see, Jabari, the baobab does not just survive, it shelters others." Jabari smiled. His journey had never been just about his own greatness. It was about lifting others with him. And so, the boy who once dreamed of greatness became the man who built it not just for himself, but for an entire village. Years flowed like the river near Mombolo, steady, sometimes turbulent, but always moving forward. Jabari, now silver-haired but still sharp-eyed, sat beneath the great baobab tree at the edge of the village, watching children laugh as they raced home from the secondary school that now stood beside the one he had built decades before. His own children, bright, bold, and brimming with dreams he had once only dared to whisper were grown. His daughter, Amina, had just returned from university abroad, her mind buzzing with ideas for solar energy, projects to bring electricity to their region. His son, Quaim, worked as a doctor in the city, but returned every month to run free clinics in Mombolo's health center. Jabari smiled. This is greatness, he thought. Not statues or titles, but seeds that grow into forests. But the world had new challenges. One afternoon, dark clouds gathered not in the sky, but in the form of men in sleek cars and crisp suits. They represented a foreign mining company, eager to dig for precious minerals beneath Mombolo's fertile land. They promised jobs, wealth, and progress. The village was divided. Some elders, remembering the hunger of their youth, were tempted by the money. The youth, desperate for work, were eager. But Jabari saw the danger, the poison water, the cracked earth. The way such promises often left villages poorer than before. At the town meeting, voices rose in anger. "Would you deny us our chance?" shouted a young man whose father Jabari had once taught. Jabari stood slowly, the weight of years and wisdom in his bones. "I deny you nothing, but I ask, what good is money if your children cannot drink the water? If the crops fail? If the air burns their lungs?" He paused. "There are other ways." That night, Amina sat with her father under the stars. "Papa," she said, "what if we didn't just say no to the mines? What if we built something better?" Together, they crafted a plan. With the help of engineers and environmentalists, they proposed ecotourism, lodges for visitors who wanted to experience Mombolo's beauty, workshops for local artisans, and farming cooperatives that could sell organic produce to the city at fair prices. They would grow, but on their own terms. It took months of struggle. The mining company fought back with bribes and threats. Some villagers wavered, but Jabari, now a legend in the region, rallied them with stories of the boy who had carried firewood and dared to dream, of the village that had stood against a highway and won. Finally, the government granted Mombolo protected status. Investors, inspired by Amina's vision, funded their projects. The first tourists arrived, marveling at the lush landscapes and vibrant culture. One evening, as the sun set in hues of gold and crimson, Jabari walked through the village. He paused at the school, where children chanted multiplication tables. He stopped by the clinic, now expanded and bustling. He smiled at the new market stalls, brimming with goods made by local hands. The old storyteller found him there. "You have done well, Jabari," he said softly. Jabari shook his head. "Not just me. Everyone who believed." The old man chuckled. "That is the secret of true greatness. It is never alone." As fireflies began to glow in the gathering dark, Jabari knew his work was not over. There would always be new battles, new dreams, but for now, he sat beneath the baobab, listening to the village hum with life, and allowed himself a quiet joy. The boy who had dreamed of greatness had become a man who taught others to dream, and that was the greatest victory of all.